1967, I was 10 years old. It was my first day of back at school on the 7th of February, a half day, as I recall. I'm not sure if that was scheduled because it was such a hot day, or if it was only a half day because it was first day back at school. But came home from school, my sister and I were just running around in our undies because it was so hot. Mum was getting us some lunch. We lived at 125 Strickland Avenue in South Hobart, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it seemed, this huge fireball just came racing down the paddock behind our house, and my mother was screaming at us to go up and sort of hide in the other end of the house, and my brother went up to the local telephone box outside. Of course there was nothing happening there. He had to wear swimming goggles to be able to see by that stage to get it to make his way up to the phone box. Anyway, Mum decided that we would all need to get out of the house and just raced out. All I can just remember is the burning hot bitumen on our bare feet. We didn't have time to get clothes or anything like that. We didn't have a car. My father was at work with the only family car, and fortunately there was a bit of a stream of evacuating traffic, of course, and there was a fellow from up the road who stopped and picked us up, took us down to South Hobart, and we ended up at the school where we had been earlier in the day. Memories from then are a bit foggy, but we ended up after that at Aikenhead House, the orphanage in Harrington Street. We didn't know where my father was at that stage. He had been working over at Glenorchy, I think, and unaware of what was going on for a long time. And when he did come home earlier than usual, of course, because he had become aware of what was happening, he had no idea where we were. He was stopped at the Cascade Brewery thereabouts because they obviously weren't letting any cars go beyond there. He saw the burnt out brewery and the trolley bus melted there on the road, and then he walked up to find our house, which was thankfully still standing because our neighbours had hosed it all down, and I'm not sure how he actually found us. But he, later in the day, I think it was towards night, we got a phone call at the orphanage from him, and there was much relief, of course. And, from there we went, the family, I'm one of 6 children, and we went to an uncle and aunt on the Eastern Shore, and there we stayed for the next 2 weeks. We weren't allowed to go back up to home because Mum and Dad thought it was just too distressing, and certainly it was very distressing 2 weeks later when we were allowed back, and we were camping in our house basically. Of course there was no electricity or anything, it was just black everywhere around. There were a number of houses, of course, burnt to the ground.